Is your brand perceived correctly by your audience? And is it easy to recognize and recall? If not, you might have an issue with your brand awareness. Hi, and welcome to Weekly Brand Tips, brought to you by Elements Brand Management. Weekly videos designed to help you to unlock your brand's potential so you can stand out from the competition and create impact. If you watch this video until the end, I'll give you a few tips on how to increase your brand awareness, as well as a link to a checklist that you can download and work through. So what is brand awareness? Well, brand awareness is how easy it is for your target audience to recognize and recall your brand. It's especially important for new brands trying to break into a market. There's a great quote from Richard Branson that says, "Your brand is only as good as your reputation." And you build this reputation with your brand awareness. So some telltale signs of good brand awareness is when you hear people say things like, "I'm an Adidas person," or "I'm an Apple fan." And it's this brand affinity that is built on strong brand awareness and simplicity at its core. As humans, we are hardwired to look for patterns and create mental shortcuts that help us to save time and make things easier for us. This is how things like Pavlovian conditioning or NLP anchors work, and also why we're so interested in magic and illusionists. We want to understand where the ball or the card has gone. Our brain is trying to predict it, and when it's not where we think it is, that's where that excitement and that happiness about that magical trick comes from. It's a shocking of our perceived idea of where something's going to be. Your audience is looking for brand shortcuts to make recognizing your brand and recalling your brand easier. For instance, I'm an Apple fan. I pretty much know the next time I upgrade my iMac, it's going to be for a new iMac. And if I upgrade my phone, it's probably going to be for another iPhone. This is because Apple has kind of filled that void. There's a connection between us. I love the brand, and unless something comes in that's going to flip that for me, I'm always going to be an advocate for that brand. And what that's done is it saves me a lot of time. I don't have to go around looking for review sites. That part of my life is kind of handled. So this is the power of effective brand awareness and also creating these brand shortcuts for your audience. So if brand awareness is about recognizing and recalling your brand, let's have a look at how Apple did that to me. So it all started about 10 years ago with some really well-crafted ads that positioned Apple as the go-to brand for creatives, with ads like "I'm a Mac" and "I'm a PC." I also noticed that all of my creative friends were using MacBooks. The way that the product looked, the way it felt, even the way it worked, the operating system was different from standard PCs. The name was more organic sounding as opposed to the majority of PC techie style brands. And what this did was it all led to Apple positioning themselves in my mind as not really a computer or laptop brand, but more of a tool that I could use to become more creative and think differently. And it was really easy even back then to recognize and recall Apple as a brand. The computers weren't like they are today with the silver MacBooks. They were white, but they were still really recognizable and they still stood out. Apple went on to do this with their iPod, where they had the headphones were white, which is another tool they used for brand recognition, which built that brand awareness. So you could be walking down the road and you'd see somebody with white headphones in, and you would know straight away that was the iPod. They even put this in a lot of their ads initially. So all the colourful ads where you had the silhouettes dancing, there was colourful backgrounds, but the actual earphones themselves were still white, and it was a way to get that across. So it was really well done how they built brand awareness early on with their products that helped it spread through the market. So now we know what brand awareness is. How do you measure brand awareness? Well, firstly, it's really important to measure brand awareness over time and keep going back to check it and mapping this over time to see how your progress goes with it. So some of the things that you can track are branded search terms. So using tools like Google Analytics or Search Console, have a look at how many times people have searched for your brand and found you with your brand name as a search term. This indicates that more and more people are understanding and recognizing, recalling your brand name and putting that into search engines to find your website. Set up a Google alert for your brand name. And what this does is anytime anybody mentions your brand name in the news or in press or articles, you'll get an email that's generally once a week and it's pinged through to you, and you'll see every time that it's been mentioned, which is a really good indicator to see how much your brand is kind of spreading through your audience and the wider audience. And you can also use these articles, you can share them to help piggyback off of that awareness and raise it even more. Social listening. So tools that monitor social media for mentions of your brand, whether that's in post content, branded hashtags, or directly tagging you in posts. And this is a really good indicator and can show how much your brand is spreading through the kind of social channels and social spectrum, and showing you if your brand awareness is really taking hold. Direct site traffic. So this is where the audience will type in your website URL from memory straight into the URL bar in their browser. So what it shows is really good recall, that they've been able to remember your website address, which has usually got your brand name in it, and gone straight to your website. So this is a really good indicator of brand awareness and the recall and the recognition of your brand. What does brand awareness do for your brand? It builds trust and loyalty. So what Apple did with me is they built brand awareness, which installed trust in their brand. I then became a customer, and over time, through continued brand awareness, I built loyalty in the brand and have become an advocate and repeat customer. So you could say consistent brand awareness equals trust. Consistent brand awareness plus trust equals loyalty. It builds recall through association. So associating your brand to a category or as a solution to a problem helps to build recall in your audience. It makes it easier for them to remember, and it gives them something to almost file away when they think of your brand. So for instance, people don't say search for it or use a search engine, they say I'm going to Google it. And this is because Google have effectively done this with their brand awareness. They've positioned themselves as a solution to a problem, which has increased recall. Higher brand equity. So brand equity is the commercial value derived from the consumer perception of your brand name. So positive experiences and interactions with your brand can actually raise your brand equity. And this can lead you to raise your prices as it's perceived to be higher in value. You have a higher stock valuation, and it can also lead to more business development opportunities as collaborations or brand extensions. So what can you do to improve your brand awareness? Influencer marketing or hacking. So aligning your brand with an influencer in your space is a really good way to get your brand to reach more people and your target audience, and this will raise your brand awareness. There are platforms like SportsCred, which are a really great platform which helps athletes and sponsors kind of connect, and you can use a platform like this to raise your brand awareness through an influencer style campaign. Talk triggers. Operational differentiators that create customer conversations naturally. So an example of this is when FedEx first introduced themselves. They were in a market where most people, if you got a sort of a package delivered to your office, it was in a sort of a standard box or packaging. They came into the market with bright purple packaging, and this spread like wildfire amongst office workers, and this really raised brand awareness. It was kind of, what's this package? Why is it different? And that message spread really quickly. Podcasts. So another great way to build brand awareness is through podcasts. This might be your own podcast where you interview industry experts, or it could be sort of appearing on other podcasts in your niche. So appearing as a guest speaker. Really good ways to build brand awareness. especially with the boom in podcasts currently. It's a great chance for brands to stake their claim and express their expertise. Social competitions. So if you hold a competition on Facebook or Instagram, you can really drive a lot of engagement, a lot of traffic, a lot of eyes to your particular social profile, which really does ramp up brand awareness. The bigger the prize, the bigger reach you're going to get, obviously. And these campaigns and these sort of competitions are really good to get your brand out there, noticed, and in people's minds. Retargeting. So if you put a Facebook pixel on your site or a Google pixel, these are really good ways to use retargeting as a way to raise brand awareness. The amount of times you go onto Facebook and you see an advert from a company that you've been on their website or you've been on their social profile, this is retargeting in action. And actually what it does do is it builds over time trust with your audience through consistent brand awareness. And retargeting can be something that, if overused, it can get a little bit spammy, but if it's done in the right way, it can be really effective in nurturing your audience. Creating relationships with your audience. So fostering engagement and meaningful conversations with your audience long term is a really great way to build brand awareness. This can be done sort of traditional method, which could be email or phone. It can also be done on your social channels. And if you're using your social listening tools we mentioned earlier, it's a really good way to jump into conversations about your brand, or if there is an issue with something that comes up from a customer service point of view, it's really good that you can sort of jump in and address that at the source, and it really helps to raise brand awareness. To sum up, if you want to improve brand awareness, you need to consistently reach the right audience with branded content that builds trust and loyalty and helps your audience to recall and recognize your brand. If you've enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more, subscribe in the link below. Videos come out weekly and they're designed to help you to unlock your brand's potential so you can stand out from the competition and create impact. Have a great week, catch up soon, and keep those brands unified.